anytime you want to. We are recording so that there are a number of people who signed up and this always happens with any kind of web chat or webinar, as you probably know. Many people sign up and then can't actually watch it until afterwards. So there will be many more people checking in and really getting a chance to enjoy hey, Chris, all right. One of our board members. Hi, Chris. It's only his face. He's not showing his real self there yet. So there he is.
Hey, Gloria.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. All right. Oh, see, we have more people checking in here. So anyway, as I was saying, these are very informal. Feel free to use the chat. Put questions into the chat. Christina, you want to raise your hand? Christina, who it looks like her name is Take the Lead, but her name is really Christina or Tina, depending on what you feel like calling her, apparently. And so she'll be monitoring the chat, and we'll be really delighted to answer any questions that you have. And I am so thrilled to have with us today Jeannette Ceja. I met Jeannette when we were both at an incredible conference in Little Rock, Arkansas called the World Woman Summit. And it was just an amazing, over-the-top conference. I actually particularly felt was one of the first women's conferences I had been to where focus was not just on what are the issues and problems and troubles. The issues that were really focused on were more like, how can women lead and change the world? And I loved that so much. And meeting Jeannette was one of the real highlights. And I was so taken with the work that Jeannette does. So let me give you a quick intro. And so Jeannette is a travel journalist. And one of the things that I want to talk about, did we just lose her for a moment there? There's Jeannette. People keep moving around as people sign on. One of the things that we'll talk about is what I noticed is that Jeannette has had this intention to be a travel journalist since a long time. And how people know that about themselves so early in life, I have not figured out. But I want you to tell us about how that came to be. And she's also now speaking globally on when we were able to travel on travel issues, and she's an ambassador to Kind Travel company, and she also has been recognized by the Angelino magazine, lives in Los Angeles, been recognized by Angelino magazine as a power player in travel. Yeah. If you go to her website, you will see many beautiful videos. And one of the things that impressed me about your website, Jeannette, was that you reference many exotic places, but you also showed us Pasadena, California, and Temecula, and places that are, like it reminded me, there are a lot of amazing places all around, and you don't necessarily have to travel overseas to see some really fabulous, fascinating things. So I noticed also, Jeannette, that you've interviewed some of the leaders in the travel industry. So hopefully what we can do is two things today. Actually three things. One, learn about you, how you came to be doing this work. Number two, what your view is of what's happening, what's going to be next in the travel industry in general. And number three, let's just have some fun and let everybody share about their own travel favorites and questions and things that you might like to share. So can we just start by having you tell a little bit about yourself and why this profession that you've chosen?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gloria. I'm so honored to know a woman like you. I heard Gloria speak at the World Women's Summit, and I was taken aback by just how amazing and brilliant she is. And I had an opportunity to interview her, and I've been a fan ever since. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here with all you amazing women. My journey, I would call it more a purpose than just a profession for me. I've had my passport since I was about 6 months old. I was a little roly-poly. My parents are from Mexico, so they would take me frequently to Mexico City, and I just have been traveling ever since I was a baby, essentially. Um, I have vivid memories as a little girl watching travel shows on the Travel Channel, History Channel, Discovery Channel. I would literally be glued to the TV like this close, and my parents would be very concerned for like my eyesight. And I would watch Samantha Brown, Rick Steves, Anthony Bourdain, and I would watch them and study them. And I was like, I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to show people the world. And I knew since I was a little girl that that's what I was going to do. At the time, though, I didn't see anyone who looked like me. I didn't see anyone who was Latina or like, a little curvy. I mean, I'm not, not a supermodel or anything. So I had that purpose and passion in me, but yet as a little girl, I didn't see anyone who looked like me. So I kind of put it on the back burner. And then I started writing about travel when I was 12 years old. I got a journal, and with my allowance money, I would buy disposable cameras and just take pictures and tape them onto my little journal and share it with anybody who would take the time to listen to me. So essentially, I've known since a very young age that this is what I was meant to do. For me, it's just trying to share the beauty of the world, and I really feel that travel helps break a lot of the isms and the stereotypes, like the sexism, ageism, all these stereotypes that exist, that until people can go and see the culture, meet and experience for themselves, they understand that it may be much different than is what reported in the news, for example. I also started writing for my local high school newspaper. I got a degree in journalism in Nashville, and my dean of journalism happened to be the travel editor for the statewide newspaper, the Tennessean. So he helped guide me along my 4 years of journalism. And he really believed in me and saw something in me that at the time I was a little afraid of my own potential. And so that's kind of how I really got started. But it really was in me my entire life. And I ended up interviewing Anthony Bourdain at the Tribeca Film Festival a couple years ago, which is still to this day one of the highlights of my life. I live in LA, for anyone who doesn't know, and I did entertainment reporting for some time, to pay the bills, and I'm why I'm here. But I've never gotten starstruck. The only time I've ever gotten starstruck was with Anthony Bourdain, and I literally did not know how to. I forgot who I was, and he was so tall. He had to bend over for me to ask him a few questions, and he was the nicest hands, like just nicest guy that I've ever met, which made me like him even more. And I remember one of the questions I asked him was, you've done so much in your career. Is there anything still that you would like to accomplish? And he said, yeah, I want to make moon pies with Keith Richardson. And I just was like, okay. I was just so like, he's so cool. And I've also interviewed Samantha Brown, and I told her, when I was a young girl, I wanted to be you. And she laughed and said, oh, you make me feel so old. I'm like, no, you're such an inspiration. And Samantha Brown she has a travel show on PBS now called Places to Love. And she has twins, and she's still doing it. So I feel so empowered by women like her who have really paved the way for other women who want to have a career in travel.
So in that vein, I realized that I neglected to mention the name of your company, Jet Set with Jeanette.
Yeah.
And so Jet Set with Jeanette, you must not be doing much jet setting right now, I'm guessing. Would you share with us your thoughts about how this pandemic is going to impact the travel industry over the longer term? I mean, do you think we'll just go back to a normal at some point, or what do you think is going to happen?
That's a really good question. Both personally and professionally, I feel with everyone who's going through this pandemic, the first 2 weeks when it really hit the USA, beginning of March, I was kind of in a shock.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to lie, I spent many nights crying, um, not just from a professional standpoint, but from a personal standpoint, because both of my parents live alone in Nashville and my father's very sick. So I felt a little helplessness being in Los Angeles and wanting to be there. Um, I also felt shocked because for the first time in our generation, like we are at a standstill globally and we're all going through this together. And I felt very, for the first 2 weeks, I was very depressed for a lot of reasons. And this has been the longest time ever that I've been home. And so it's another shock for me. But, if it's for the better of everyone, it's the least that I can do. And, speaking with a lot of, I'm getting interviewed and interviewing a lot of experts in different industries. Honestly, it sounds like nobody really knows what is going to happen. I think everybody from the media to the health experts to the airlines to the travel industry is taking it day by day or week by week because there are constant developments and changes. And, the travel restrictions and the stay at home orders keep getting extended. So I don't think really anyone knows right now. And as far as the long-term effects on travel, all the statistics and the reports that I've been reading by the US Travel Association or the World Tourism Organization are absolutely devastating. Every industry has been affected, and in every business. I know so many people who've gotten laid off and let go from their jobs. And the travel industry has particularly been hit very, very hard, and it's really devastating because even when things start to go back to normal, it will never go back to what it was in the pre-pandemic, and we really don't know what will happen.
Mhm.
So I'm just taking it day by day, honestly.
So one of the things that I think we're at a stage that we need to start talking about right now is not just how will it happen, but how do we want to make it happen? If you were going to if you were going to take this time to reinvent the industry, what are some of the things that you would do? How would you like to see it be in a year from now or 2 years from now?
Well, I think the upside to many of, there are a couple silver linings. I mean, there's going to be more hygiene in airports and on airplanes. That's great. Some airplanes are also removing the middle seat, for example. It may be temporary, but it may become permanent. I think there are some ways that the travel industry will become better. Also, I feel that humanity is finding a way to connect with each other. JetBlue
Mhm.
had been giving free flights to medical and healthcare workers in New York City. Four Seasons in New York City has been providing free hotel rooms to the medical and healthcare workers. So I feel like it's a great time for solidarity, especially in the travel industry, especially when the travel industry is hurting so bad, but yet they're able to offer any kind of help during this crisis. Um,
Mhm.
so that's a silver lining, I suppose, that I can see.
Right, right, right. Yes.
Yes.
Um, I I think I'm sorry, I'm getting a little feedback. Are you getting feedback from my speakers?
I was for a second, but it's okay
Okay,
now.
it's okay now.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, good. It looks like we have some things going on in the chat. So why don't we pivot to that right now and
Okay.
see what people want to talk about, and then we'll
Okay.
proceed.
So somebody said that they agree about having more space on the airplane, that would be that would be a great option
That would
to
be
help with
so
travel.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I agree. I've never personally liked the middle seat. I mean, maybe somebody out there does, but yeah, that's a temporary thing, but it could become permanent.
Mhm.
So that's good. And more hygiene in airports and on airplanes. I mean, there's so many studies how the tray, on your seat is actually the most, insanitary place. So hopefully there will be more upgrades to travel after this. And again, some airlines have been going out of business. Some are in talks. They're still flying. You can technically still fly right now. It's kind of at your own risk, domestically at least. And again, things keep changing, and it's country by country at this point. Every country has their own travel restrictions and travel bans. I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone has the answer at this very moment. Everyone is taking it day by day. So yeah.
Somebody else said that they saw disposable seat covers today.
Yeah, actually, I know someone who has airplane seat covers over 2 years ago. That was I met them at that Los Angeles Travel and Adventure Show, and that was their product. So I'm sure that
Oh, wow.
been very handy during these times.
And so somebody asks a question. They're asking, what do you think will happen to frequent flyer miles and bonus points? Do you think that they will extend the expiration timeline?
That's a great question. I think that will vary on the airline, that if they will honor that. Again, every airline is different. I've been hearing different stories about refunds and credits. So for example, if you cancel a flight, depending on the airline, some airlines will refund you, or they can honor and give you a credit for future travel. So yeah, great question.
Where will your next trip be? When you're able to go again, where will you go? Where will be the first place you want to go?
To Nashville to see my parents.
Oh.
That will be my first place. I think this will be the first Mother's Day that I won't be with my mom, which is heartbreaking. All her kids live in California. And so it's kind of like with celebrations like that it's really heartbreaking during these times. But again, nobody really knows. So it would be Nashville. And I think after that, I would love to go back to France. As you can see, Paris is my second home. I have this little home that I got in Romania by this little Romania couple that makes these little clay homes, and I take it with me everywhere. But I really feel that if I were to live in a different country, it would be France. Je m'appelle Jeannette, and I'm also studying French because I want to live there, and my name is French, so it all makes sense. It's all meant to be.
When I asked Jeanette what she was doing during this time, she said, I want you to tell people what you've been spending your time doing. I mean, I'm like, this has got to take a brilliant mind.
Thank you. I'm usually not one to sit still for very long periods of time. Even when I travel, I can lay on a beach, for maximum one day, and then I'm absolutely bored out of my mind. So one of the things that I've been doing is studying French online. I have 2 apps for language and learning French, and also there's online courses at different schools all around California or the US that you can take. I bought this book probably about 6 months ago about TED Talks. So I want to give my first TED Talk, and I'm really ambitious, which may be a good or bad thing, but I want to do a TED Talk in English. Spanish is my second language, and I'm learning French. And there's a TED Talk in Cannes, France next year, and I'm really pushing to do a TED Talk there next year. So one of the things I'm doing.
So are you giving? I just want to be clear about this. So are you giving the speech? You're giving 3 speeches in 3 languages. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, yes, si, oui. That is the goal. I mean, that is the goal, right? Again, I always like to go to push myself out of my comfort zone. And I think that's what travel does. It forces you out of your comfort zone. And I really like to push myself. Yesterday, I hosted my first virtual vision board workshop. I offered it free to the public. Anyone who has not done a vision board, anyone who has not done a vision board, okay, so I did one. Angela, who's on here, did one with me. It's literally a board with your goals. And so I do them for travel because travel is a mindset. And it was phenomenal. And I've done about 10 workshops last year. And yesterday was my first virtual vision board workshop. So I've been keeping busy with that. And my youngest attendee was 7 years old, and she did it with her parents. And on her vision board, she put no coronavirus, and she literally drew the little virus, and she drew like cupcakes and unicorns, and it's so amazing. So that's one way I've been keeping busy and being of service to people while I'm at home. Another thing that I've been doing is catching up on like my travel books. You know, if you have any travel books, you can still read and learn about countries. And, you know, here's a classic, Eat, Pray, Love, that I love. I also have many travel magazines that I'm keeping up to date. I mean, although we physically can't travel at this very moment, we can still dream about it. We can still plan for it, because I truly believe one day we will be able to travel again. And when that time comes, after months of being in stay-at-home lockdown, I truly feel like we're going to want to travel more than ever, because we're going to just want to get out of our houses.
Yep. So are you willing to share your vision board with us? I'm very curious about what do you have on your vision board? I saw a lot of pretty pictures there. What tell us about it?
Sure. Which vision board would you guys like to see? Because I literally have 4 vision boards. So I have a vision board for my travel show. I wrote a travel show last year, which is a travel show about women, and I was pitching it in Los Angeles and New York, and I was going to film a pilot, and then coronavirus happened. So that's kind of on the back burner. So this is a vision board. I'll show you guys this one. This is just a general vision board. It has everything I want in my life. I want a family, so I want like a little kid, and I want to live next to the coast. I want to live in France, so I have a lot of French words there, like bon appetit. I do a lot of yoga because it gives me a lot of peace of mind. So I have a lady doing yoga. I have a lot of words of affirmations, like time for family, and home, Riviera, Europe. And I have this really handsome guy on there who, you know, whatever I would like to date or marry sometime. So that's kind of the idea of a vision board. There's no wrong or right way to do a vision board. It's actually your goals. And what I've learned through, you know, watching The Secret or like hearing other people talk about vision boards is it really works with the subconscious mind, which has fascinated me, and the tool of visualization, because I truly believe travel is a mindset, and this is something that I speak about all over the world. Is a lot of people don't travel pre-coronavirus, of course, didn't travel because they would always say, I don't have time, I don't have money. Yet, like Gloria mentioned before, travel can be within your own city. It could be Los Angeles, it could be Arizona, it could be New York, it could be wherever you live, the park across the street. I truly believe whenever you leave your home, you are a traveler. So for me, it's all about the mindset. And doing vision boards, I realized that when you got a group of people together and you just said, just wherever you want to go, put it on your vision board. And I can't tell you how many stories I've had of people who said, I put this place and I put that place and I went, and oh my gosh. And it's so amazing. It's so fun. And I think since we're all home, if you have a couple magazines at home, you don't even need a poster board. You could just put it on your wall, or you can, for example, I have a picture of a woman in a bikini on my fridge. So every time I go to the fridge, I think twice about opening it, because I definitely have gained the corona like 50 pounds, you know. my body doesn't know what time of day it is, and so I keep eating and eating. So it's just things like that that can help you stay motivated, stay inspired. Like I said, travel is a mindset. So although we physically can't travel, we can still, think about it, dream about it, and plan for it. And it keeps me going, at least during these difficult times.
Yeah.
It's been very difficult for me too.
Angela wanted to know what your favorite apps for learning languages are, and Christina wants to know too.
Okay, cool. Let me look at my phone because I have them on my phone. One of them is Duolingo, and that one's a free app that anyone can get in any language. And the other one is called Fluent Forever. And they're both very different. I feel like Duolingo is a little more for beginners because it has a lot of cartoons, and I feel like Fluent Forever is a little more if you want to try intermediate. It's a little faster pace. So yeah, those are really exciting.
How do you prepare for a trip? What do you do to prepare for going on some kind of a journey?
Well, I'm that, weird person who loves to pack. And so probably a week before the trip, I already have my suitcase out and I pack per day. So depending on what my schedule is, I will pack per day. So for example, I went to Egypt recently. I knew the first 3 days would be professional, and then the last couple days would be just touring, going to landmarks like the pyramids. So it was a little more casual. So I usually plan and pack per day. And here's a really great tip that I learned the hard way. Always pack like, for example, if you're going to a wedding or you're going to the beach, always pack your bikini or your bridesmaid dress or your wedding dress on your carry-on. Take it on with you because, things happen, and sometimes your luggage doesn't make it, or it's late, or it's lost. And if you're going to a wedding and you're a bridesmaid and you're the only one who's not wearing the dress, the bride will become a bridezilla. Or if you're going to a tropical destination where large is actually not a large in that country because, I don't know, I have a couple more curves right now. So it's not a really fun situation. So I always pack on my carry-on the essentials: medicine, bikini, wet and bridesmaid dress, whatever is most important. So that way, anything happens to your checked-in luggage, you're at least good for a few days.
I'm actually impressed that you actually check luggage.
Yes.
I don't ever.
Yes.
Ever.
I try not to, but to be honest, it just depends where I'm going. And if it's a really cold destination, I go to France every December. It's just loaded with rain boots and jackets and heavy stuff. So I just throw all that in the check-in luggage. But yeah, I try to travel with just a carry-on. I really, really do.
Yeah, my children can't understand how I managed to do 2-week trips with one suitcase and one little carry-on. But I'm like, I'm always so afraid I'm going to lose whatever it is. That's my own little thing. So we have some excellent more questions here. Yeah.
We have a tip from Kiera. She says, if you're traveling with someone else, pack some of your clothes in their bag and some of their clothes in your bag. So if one bag is lost, one of you will at least have 2 extra outfits.
Smart.
Genius.
Smart. I would have never thought about that.
Thank you, Kiera. I think Kiera is a world traveler. If that's the Kiera I know, that she's a really well world traveler. So great.
All right. And somebody else, Paula said, I have been writing and publishing international travel articles and exhibiting my international travel photography. I'm looking for some new avenues for publishing. Maybe a few others are too. Can you give us some suggestions for new possibilities? Sure. I also don't check. It's amazing how much you can get into a carry-on even for a month.
Sure, that's a great question. I mean, I would always start with my own website, for example, my own website, my own social media platforms. There's a lot of online platforms out there that you can also collaborate with. Just depending, a lot of tourism boards, you can ask, for example, if you go to their destination, like let's say Pasadena, you go to Pasadena, you take great photos of Pasadena, you could probably approach a tourism board if they were interested in working with you or collaborating with you, sharing your photos or stories. I think that would be a great way to expand your exposure. Or travel conferences. I mean, now they're all virtual for now, online. Maybe you can contact a travel conference or a travel a seminar and see if you can work and collaborate together.
Did that answer your question, Paula? Does that? Okay, all right. Because I have another question I wanted to ask you, which is a while ago you mentioned about specifically travel aimed at women, and I have noticed a number of companies that specialize in excuse me, specialize in travel, organizing travel for women and so forth, and I'm very curious about that, and if you could share maybe some tips for that you think are important for women to know, whether they're traveling alone or if you think it's good to kind of line up with a group like that. I'm just curious about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of great women tour operators that are only women, for women. And I know one who, it's called Female Scape Journs. It's by a travel journalist. It's her and her mother. And they take women all over the world. They're great. For example, they do Mexico City, Morocco. I've taken about 50% of my trips are alone and all over the world. I think for me, the first trip I took alone was a little scary because I was 19 and I did a study abroad in Sicily. But just like with anything, when you do it once, you grow as a person, you get more confident, and then you want to do it more and more, maybe little by little. I think my recommendation for any woman, and I completely understand being a woman myself, is baby steps. For example, if you've never traveled alone, I always recommend going domestic. So for me, a great 4-day getaway post-coronavirus, it would be like Hawaii. Maybe go for 4 days to Hawaii by yourself. And I did this by myself. I went to Waikiki. I hiked, Diamond Head by myself. I took a surfing lesson by myself. I, saw the fireworks. I went to a luau by myself. Everything was completely by myself, but because it was still the US and the same language, I felt safe. And it wasn't too far from LA, so it wasn't like I was going on the other side of the world. So that's just another, that's a tip that I would say if you're gonna do a solo trip, or if you want to do even more baby steps, maybe go to the city in your same state, like Santa Barbara, San Diego, Temecula, Pasadena, and take yourself out for a day or a weekend and test your own comfort. And I that's what I would recommend.
Great. So how do you find, Anya wants to know, how can you find a reliable and safe individual tour guide in different countries? That's a really good question.
That's a really great question. I usually would always go first with word of mouth. So asking someone who you already know and you already trust, who's gone to that destination and who's come back and who has tested and gotten that. I always go word of mouth first. For example, when I went to Egypt, I was looking for a tour guide for the pyramids, and I had so many recommendations, but I went with the one from the friend who's been there and was back here. And so that's what I would recommend first. Second, you can look through the travel magazines. Usually there's a lot of great recommendations here, or a travel advisor, a verified travel advisor in your own home city who's very reputable, who's also been there, done that. Those would be one of the best options, I would say.
Yeah, it's a really good question too when it comes to like, what are the things you're interested in? Because you can get somebody who's technically a good travel guide, but I know for me, if I'm particularly interested in, say, the history or the art or the something, whatever it is of that country, to try to find somebody who is really who's really knowledgeable about that thing that I'm interested in, is sometimes hard to do. Um, but that's always an important aspect for me, because there are a lot of things you can read about and you can find out about on your own. You don't need a guide for that. But and in fact, so how do you feel about individual travel guides versus being on a tour with other people?
I think it depends on the traveler that you are. For example, my mother growing up, she had a travel agent for 15 years. And my mother, bless her heart, she's the kind of person who likes the big group tours on the big buses, and she likes being taken care of where she doesn't have to worry about a single thing. I personally, I can do both, but I like the personal tour guides. I like going maybe one-on-one or in a small group. For example, in Egypt, I had a woman tour guide for half of the trip. And then for the Egyptian Museum, I had this phenomenal archaeologist tour guide who gave me and my sister a private tour. And so I guess it depends on the traveler that you are, and what kind of traveler you are. Like you said, your history, there's some travelers out there who are foodies. They literally just want to eat the entire time. There's some who want adventure, thrill seekers, like Kristen Gill, who's an adventure travel journalist. She's on here. She's amazing. She will go do the most phenomenal adventurous things. And some people will be like, no, thank you. I'm just going to eat over here. Thanks. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was thinking about your interview with Anthony Bourdain and thinking about, there are people who are, when they're traveling, are like, they're afraid to try.
Yeah.
And, they're afraid to try the food, or they're afraid to, it's like, well, why would you travel if you don't want to partake in whatever that culture, country, or whatever, that's, to me, that's the joy of it. Is I haven't gotten sick yet. So I guess that's,
you got a strong stomach, Gloria.
I do, actually. I do. I eat and drink everything, and I do have a very strong stomach. That is a fact.
That's amazing. I would love to take you to Mexico City, which is my mother's hometown. To eat some street tacos. If you can survive those street tacos, you can literally survive anything.
Been there, done that, and I'll go back with you anytime.
I am ready. Let's do it.
No, I love Mexico City. It's wonderful. Oh, dear. Do we have some other questions there?
Yeah, we have somebody asking, what are some of the travel conferences that they can attend virtually? If you know of any, they're looking for some recommendations.
Amazing. Yes. Well, I think a lot of the travel conferences, like every conference, is now going online and virtual. But some of the ones that I frequently attend, in January was the New York Times Travel Show. That was one of the biggest ones, and it's open to the public. Los Angeles in February hosts the Travel and Adventure Show, and that goes from city to city. So San Diego, Chicago, Denver, Boston. Those are yearly, every year. Gosh, there literally is so many. Skift has a great one, Skift Global Forum. It's all over the world. They're headquartered in New York. I'm trying to think of which ones are. The problem is a lot of them are being canceled or postponed. So I don't really know of any momentarily. Yeah, I will have to keep you up to date, because like I said, they're being postponed and rescheduled. I was supposed to go to Venice, Italy in April for a travel conference that obviously got postponed till 2021. So yeah, I won't be there for a long time. But whoever asked that question, I'd be happy to follow up with you and take some time to research, because I know them, but I don't know when they will be held anymore, or if they're all going virtual, for example. So
right, yeah, right. So I have a sort of a game that I'd like to play with everybody here for just a minute. I wonder if everybody would be, if you're willing to just put into the chat what your most aspirational place that you want to go is, and then we'll see. It will be Stump the Guest. We'll see if Jeanette has been there.
I love this.
Oh,
okay.
Kiara says Mongolia. Have you been there?
No, I have not. No, good job. Yeah. Wow, you guys, I'm going to lose this game. I have not been to Dubai or Galapagos Island. Good job.
Uh, I'm trying to think of what I will fit in there. What would I say? Hmm. Who else? South Pacific?
Like Tahiti, I've not been. No, New Zealand, I have not been. Nope, I've not.
Mm.
I lived in Australia for some time. I've not been to Haiti. Wow, you guys,
He's stumping the guests. This is
you guys are really stumping me. So Egypt was my 60th country. And believe it or not, in my industry, I'm way behind on the countries. But for me as a woman, and this is something, Gloria, that I would love to talk about, that it really empowers me as a woman, as a traveler, to do more for women, because there's a lot of stereotypes as women out there, especially if you want to work in the travel industry or you want to travel. A lot of the times after I speak on a panel or at a conference, always happens. There's a guy who comes up to me and asks me a question, and the question has been all about, so do you want to get married and have kids one day? And I say, absolutely, that is my dream, to be a mom one day. And they say, it's happened several times, they say, but you can't have it all. What are you going to choose? And I was taken so aback, and I was so offended because, one, that's my personal life, right? Two, how come I can't have it all because I am a woman? That really breaks my heart, because I truly believe we can have it all. I believe it's a personal choice, and that's also a choice with your partner, and whenever that time comes. But let's look at Samantha Brown, who has twins, and she's doing her shows still. I mean, there's so many amazing women that are out there doing that. So that actually, it upset me so much, but it propelled me to want to keep doing this, because we need more women in the travel industry, from top to bottom, from leaders to interns, to every part of the travel industry. So we also need more diversity. We need more Latinas. We need more women who are not former actresses and supermodels, who are doing it for the purpose and passion. You know what I mean? They're not in bikinis. They are out there on the ground showing you the world for other reasons. So it just propels me to want to do it more.
So I have to ask you, I may not have been listening carefully enough, but was the person who asked you that question, were you talking with them about some kind of job or some kind of, no? Okay. All right. Because I was going to say, that's kind of an illegal thing to even say.
No, trust me. No, they were just attendees at a huge.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they heard me speak about, being a woman and travel and traveling. I've had men here in Los Angeles. I actually gave up dating in LA a long time ago, but I've had men when I used to date here, they would say, well, what guy's going to date a woman that travels as much as you? And again, nobody will ask a man that. I feel like we're in 2020, you guys, the times have changed. I think that it's okay to be a woman and travel. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that really just points up the importance of having you doing what you're doing and showing yourself as a role model for that. And the thing is, when people go into that whole "you can't have it all" thing, well, nobody has it all the time, but every day you make a series of choices. I mean, this is one of the things we always talk about in our Take the Lead trainings. Like, every day you make a series of choices about what you want to do with your life, and at some point in your life you may not be traveling as much, but that doesn't mean that you don't have your aspiration and your purpose to be able to travel during most of your life. It's also not like having children is like takes you out of the game forever either, even if you do take some time out. It's I don't know why people have those antiquated ideas, and that is in Western culture. Now let me ask you about, how do you walk the cultural line in countries where women are in fact second-class citizens. And how do you just talk about how you travel in those places where you're sort of walking the line between respect for a culture and also you have a different point of view. How do you do that?
That's a great question. And the more I travel, the more mindful and humbled I have become. For example, when I visited Cuba a couple years ago, it was my first communist country, and I loved Cuba. The locals, everyone was so generous and nice. But that was my first communist country that I've ever visited. And I remember I actually rented an Airbnb because I wanted to support the locals. That was actually Rick Steves, I think, recommended that a couple years ago. So I wanted to do that. This is the time when the US and Cuba they opened the doors, and I literally was able to take a direct flight from Los Angeles to Havana on Alaska Airlines. When they opened that opportunity, I knew it might not last, so I went straight for it. The couple that I rented the Airbnb from were two married couples who invested in a property to do Airbnb to travelers because Americans would be able to go. They were all petroleum engineers, yet they all told me sitting down at dinner, they cooked an amazing meal the first night. And this really humbled me and made me so appreciative that, we do live in America and all of these amazing, freedoms and rights we have as just in general, not even gender-based. But I asked them, I said, what is life like? Just tell me. And they said, the most that we can make, even with all the degrees that we have, college degrees and work experience, is up to 50, 60 US dollars per month. And let's say the waiter down the street or whoever is making 40 US dollars a month. They're like, there's no incentive to do what we're doing, because at the end of the day, there's a cap to how much we can make. And they also informed me at that time that as Cubans, they could only travel without a visa to two countries. One was Russia and another one was another country. And they said, how can we come to the US if we make equivalent to 60 US dollars a month, and for us to get a travel or work visa to the US will take very long. It's a very long process. For the first time in my life, I didn't know what to say, because I had never encountered that problem as an American. And I was just so humbled, and they really said it with all their heart. And they were like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, so I work in media, because I didn't know what to say, because, as Americans, we really do have so many opportunities. Our passports can get us into so many countries without, a visa, or it's one of the best, like literally. There was a true story. There was a fire alarm in my building the other day. Somebody was cooking or overcooking or something happened. I grabbed three things. I grabbed my cell phone, my laptop, and my passport. I was like, that's all I need. My passport is my most important thing, because I can, post and pre-pandemic, travel is my life. So yeah, I mean, going to a country like Cuba really humbled me, both on a gender basis and just, the great things that we really do have as Americans. It really made me appreciate that.
Well, it sounds like you were very sensitive to what what you were being told, and to the culture that you were in, and that's not something we always learn as Americans, I will have to say. I think that kind of sensitivity is just not always part of our culture. So I think you've just modeled something very important. I mean, I was, when I asked you the question, I was thinking about like countries where women have to wear the hijab, or countries where, where women can't go certain places, can't drive, can't do this, can't do that. And how do you navigate that if you want to get to know those locations, but you are a woman, right? Do you put on the hijab? Do you, what do you do?
That's very true. In Egypt, actually, I visited as a part of a tour. I visited a couple mosques, and we had to cover ourselves and cover our shoulders and be very mindful. And when they would pray, for example, in Cairo, I was very mindful and respectful of their tradition and their culture. And I would cover up for example, like Egypt, when I went there. Absolutely. I think that's something good before you go to a destination too, is to do your research, right? To do your research. And something too, it was my first time to Egypt. So I asked everyone who I knew who had been there what their experience was like. And this is what they told me.
Mm-hmm. So Chris wants to know what you would tell your younger self.
Chris, how young do you want to go? I would tell my younger self that just believe in yourself. I mean, this really goes into, I believe self-development is good for any career, any stage of your life. When I was a young girl watching the travel shows, I knew in my heart that that was what I was meant to do. But again, because I didn't fully believe in myself at the time, and I didn't see anyone that looked like me, I self-sabotaged my own dreams. And I honestly feel like it was up until 3 years ago that when I rebranded as Jet Set with Jeanette, I quit everything that was not travel related. And my family was like, Jeanette, you're crazy. I was going the entrepreneurial route because I understood that if I really, really believed in my dream, which was to do this travel show, build a travel empire, I was going to have to be 100% dedicated and invested. And that even meant failing, taking a financial hit, which I did. There were so many struggles and failures that I encountered, but it made me stronger. And it also tested me. How bad do you want this? And this is pre-social media days. This is pre all that influencer stuff. I was on the ground, going to travel conferences, meeting people, building relationships, and it took years to do that. And that's something that I always advise. I have mentees, I have people who I speak at colleges and universities about this, is I always tell them, know your why first. Like, Simon Sinek has that great TED talk about know your why. Know your why first before you go out there and do anything, because your why will keep you going when the times get tough. And times were so tough on me throughout the last 3 years. Like, I would eat ramen soup for like a month, but I would go out there every day and try and try and try and never give up. So I would tell my younger self, like, keep going. And I've had people tell me like, oh, you can't do it because you're a woman, or because you're, not a certain size, or you name it. I've heard it. But because I believed in myself, and because I feel like I'm being a role model for other young girls who may hopefully one day want to do this too. And then they can say, you know what, I saw her, so I'm going to do that too. So I'm basically wanting to do this for young girls everywhere.
Wow, you have just inspired me immensely. I just want to tell you, this book that I'm writing now is about the power of intention, and you have just exemplified what that is all about. I mean, it's if you intend to, you will. That you have to really, really intend to. You have to see yourself. You have to see yourself doing it. And yeah, so I want to connect with that. I haven't asked you to make sure that people know where they can find you if they want to find out more about you or Jet Set with Jeanette. How can they find you? Your website, social media, so forth.
Yeah, so I'm going to type my my website here, and then anyone can email me at my my email address, jetsetwithjeanette.com. My social media is all at Jet Set with Jeanette. It's 2 N's, and my Twitter is at Jeanette Ceja. I love talking to everyone, women, men, all over the country, anytime that I can be of service or assistance, especially during these difficult times, because I am literally with you guys. I am here at home and going stir crazy, but doing my best to be of service and to help inspire you guys and keep the love for travel going, because, travel's a mindset as well. And if you can see it in your mind, like a lot of Bob Proctor, a lot of people out there say, you can actually do it. So yeah, I'm so inspired and so happy to be here.
Do you have a blog?
Not per se, but on my website, I'll sometimes write stories here and there. I tend to do more like events and speeches, and but I'm starting to get more into writing again. I'm actually going to do a book as well. One of my mentors, I have a mentor, and 2 years ago, he told me from meeting me in 10 minutes, write a book. And I was like, but now I know what I'm going to write a book about. Of course, it will be travel related.
Right.
But there's so many stories out there that you literally would not believe. But I just like I have to share them with you because they're too amazing, and hopefully it will inspire other people and women and young girls to travel, because to me that is one of the best educations that we can get is travel. And again, my hope is that, you know, in time, whenever the time comes, that when it's safe to travel again, people get out there and safely travel. So yeah.
Well, and until that time, and even after that time, I asked you the question about whether you had a blog because Paula had suggested that you write a travel blog,
Yeah.
and that many people would want to read it, and that it would help to promote your work and what you do. So so take that as a really good suggestion from
Absolutely.
somebody who would like to see you do that. And I think probably all of us would love to read all of your stories on a travel blog, and then it might get picked up by one of the big magazines. You don't know. That's maybe what happens. That could be what happens. So Jeanette, I cannot thank you enough for this. Was just such an incredible conversation. And for anyone who wants to find out more about Take the Lead, you can also find us at Take the Lead Women. That's our website, taketheleadwomen.com. And then on our social media, we are at Take Lead Women on Twitter and Instagram, and we're Take the Lead Women on Facebook and LinkedIn. And so we hope that you'll just stay in touch and talk to us and find Jeanette, find her everywhere, stay in touch with her. I'm at Gloria Felt everywhere, because if I did anything else, I would forget what my handle was. So I learned a long time ago I had to just use my name, and that's all. I just want to thank everybody for being with us today. And we will post the video. It will be on our YouTube channel before too long. And
Great.
so if you want to rewatch it, or if there's anything that you missed, you'll be able to pick up on it there. Jeanette, will you come back and see us another time sometime?
Anytime.
That would be fantastic. And I can't wait to take a trip to Mexico City with you.
Yes.
And we'll have a blast.
We're going to have the best time.
Right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.